Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, and today we're going to be focusing back on the 2020 presidential electoral map and presidential race. Right now, Joe Biden looks like he's peaking in terms of nationwide and statewide support, and this is likely due to Donald Trump's response to the COVID-19 outbreak that doesn't necessarily spell out good news for him in terms of approval nationwide. Though he was previously approved of in terms of the way that he handled the coronavirus, it has since diminished nationwide. And his President Trump job approval rating has also dropped, with notable pollsters such as Russ Musson reports that previously would characterize him as in the positive now have moved away. As you can see, he sort of went against and went up to almost his highest point in terms of approval in his entire presidency. In fact, it was actually his highest approval with a net, -2 nationwide, and has since gone up to a negative net 6% rounded. In terms of the approval rating of handling the coronavirus, again, a short period of time in which Donald Trump was approved of, he definitely looked like he was on pathway to re-election, but since then the numbers have changed. So, what looks good for Joe Biden now? Well, according to the JHK forecast, he currently has a 62.6% chance at winning the presidency. I'm not necessarily too confident that Joe Biden will carry states such as North Carolina, Arizona, and Florida. I think North Carolina is narrowly in the Trump column. Arizona is not. And Florida looks like it actually may be a little bit more in favor of Joe Biden than Arizona. But realistically, that's not how the electoral map will play out unless Joe Biden support shifts nationwide. And if you take a look around the entire country, Joe Biden definitely seems to be doing pretty well. If you look at not just the approval ratings of President Trump, but also polling state by state. Now, I understand some of you guys may not necessarily agree with my analysis of some of these polls, or may not necessarily agree with the fact that I'm including them at all, but it is the only data we have right now to look forward, and also all the 2018 data does spell out good news for the Democrats. But again, 2010 was nothing like what we saw in 2012. So Florida, right now, is the most recent poll from Fox News, shows Biden ahead by 3%. At a certain point in time, Donald Trump had the overall average in the state of Florida. Now, I understand that Donald Trump hasn't always done the best in the state of Florida in polling. It always ends up doing well. In 2016, he only led by 0.2% and ended up winning by a percentage point more. But if he does outperform a percentage here, he still loses by 2.2%. If you go ahead and take a look at the statewide races in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, these are races that are critical for the Biden campaign. Pennsylvania has gone up to an 8-point margin, according to Fox News, and an overall average of 6.7% in the state of Wisconsin, from previously being in a deficit up to 2.7% for the Biden campaign. As for Michigan, the state of Michigan goes even further to the left, 5.5%, an average of 6% for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. If you look at Michigan's polling data, again, Donald Trump outperformed by 3.7%. If you apply that to the Michigan polling data, then Joe Biden still wins. Same thing if you go over to Pennsylvania. In 2016, Hillary Clinton led by 1.9% and Donald Trump won by 0.7%. A net gain of 2.6%, again, not enough to put him over the top. The only state compared to 2016 that Donald Trump drastically outperformed in, and this is the only state out of all of them that went against the margin of error. Keep in mind, polls weren't actually that wrong. It was the mainstream media that was wrong, not the polling data. But besides that, Hillary Clinton led by 6.5%, ended up losing by 0.7%. So, this time around, it looks like Wisconsin is going to be the closest out of all of them, according to polling data. So, again, that one could flip if the numbers were applied. But also, if we look at the nationwide polling, Joe Biden seems to be getting up there a little bit higher. Sure, before the Democratic primary, Joe Biden had a super large lead. The same thing happened for Hillary Clinton. Once you start to lose some of that base, such as the Bernie Sanders supporters or Elizabeth Warren, Michael Bloomberg, Pete Buttigieg, whoever they supported, may not be too much in favor of Joe Biden right now. Obviously, you're going to lose that after the primary is over, and you're going to have to work to regain that once you hit the convention. The same thing happened in 2016. If you look over at a state such as Arizona, we have a net average of 4.4% for Joe Biden. In 2016, the polling data actually indicated that Donald Trump would win by a larger margin than he did. And, if you look at this, it's showing that Joe Biden is ahead in Arizona, and that's not too much of a stretch. It looks like they're going to elect a Democratic senator in 2020, which means that they will have more Democratic representatives from Arizona, 2 Democratic senators, and possibly a win for the Democrats on the nationwide level. North Carolina is also very interesting because this is a Republican state. Last time I went to a Democrat was by 0.3% in 2008, then went to Romney, then to Donald Trump. In polling data, Donald Trump led by 1%, ended up winning by 3.7%, so this does give him good news, but at the same time, North Carolina is not a crucial state for the Joe Biden campaign as much as it is crucial to the Donald Trump campaign. And Joe Biden is carrying a lot of Democrats with him. The generic congressional vote, though hasn't fluctuated much nationwide, has been almost consistently for the Democrats. And if you look at the 2018 election results, more centrist Democrats were elected than progressive Democrats, and a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that centrist Democrats were able to win over some of the Republican voters. And now it looks like the Democrats are going to settle with a centrist Democrat for the 2020 race. Also, if you take a look at some of these Senate races, like I said, the Arizona Senate race, I mean, Mark Kelly's leading by 8%. This could possibly be a likely win for the Democrats if these numbers hold. In North Carolina, this is a Republican pollster. I think it's about, even right now, Cunningham narrowly ahead, but within the margin of error, within super close, that I would call it practically a dead tie in North Carolina. Virginia polling data, I mean, Virginia was never really going to be close. We're talking about Obama 6.3, Clinton 5.4, Biden now 7.3. Virginia has just been moving further to the left. And when you take a look at this electoral map, Joe Biden, he can afford to lose some of these states that Donald Trump 100% cannot afford to lose. Trump cannot lose Texas. He cannot lose Iowa. He cannot lose Ohio. He cannot lose Georgia. Otherwise, his campaign's over. Because once those states go, a number of other states are going to flip as well. North Carolina, Donald Trump needs to hold. Donald Trump needs Florida. He needs Arizona. Joe Biden only needs 3 states that didn't go for Hillary Clinton: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And right now, it looks like that Michigan and Pennsylvania are locked in for Joe Biden. Let's take a look at how the chances have changed over time. Right now, Biden is at his highest point he has ever had since the beginning of March, essentially since the Democratic primary was effectively over. And when you look at this, it was always back and forth, but now we're starting to see similar numbers to what we saw on the 2016 election day, except the pollsters probably won't get it wrong this time around. They didn't get 2018 that, drastically wrong, and they didn't get 2016 wrong either. If you can go ahead and take a look at the RCP map, Donald Trump had a pretty good chance at winning the presidency based off that map. And also, 538 gave him a 33% chance. I'd take a 33% chance at winning the presidency. No one really thought that Donald Trump was going to win the presidency in 2016, other than a couple of people that supported him. But realistically, I mean, even the Trump campaign manager said that they needed a miracle in order to win. In fact, Donald Trump rented out a smaller venue in 2016 to prepare for his concession, because he said that he did not want a large crowd in case he had to concede. Obviously, that was not the case, but I'm just saying there was a whole narrative that Donald Trump was going to lose, but the numbers did not necessarily reflect that. They were only off in Wisconsin, and I really don't like seeing a bunch of comments just invalidating the entire work that I do, or my analysis, just because of the fact that I do take into account polling data that is almost always accurate. And taking a look at all of this, it is possible a Democratic wave does happen in 2020. We're talking about pickups in the House, pickups in the Senate. When you look at the overall average of the Senate, sure, the Republicans are probably going to win the Senate, but it has narrowed to where it previously was. Okay, if you take a look at where the Democrats have possibilities of picking up seats, Maine, North Carolina, Iowa, Georgia, Montana, Arizona, Colorado, these are states that the Democrats realistically could win. They have an incumbent in Alabama who probably isn't going to win. When you look at Montana, though, they do have a popular governor incumbent. They have a former governor in Colorado. They have a very well-known, not necessarily politician, but statewide figure in Arizona. They have a very competitive race in Maine because of the unpopularity of said incumbent. And in North Carolina, we have an unpopular senator who probably will not benefit out of an increased African-American turnout. Sorry, I dropped my microphone there. But it looks like the races are narrowing up. Okay, when you look at the presidential election forecast and you look at the Senate forecast, and even if you look at the areas that the House pickups are likely to happen in, The Republicans probably won't gain in the House. They probably won't gain in the Senate. And even if they do retain the Senate, they're not going to have the House. They're probably not going to have the presidency if numbers hold today. This is essentially the equivalent of a convention bump, even though there probably won't be a convention realistically, or there will be an online convention. This is the equivalent of what we've been seeing. Joe Biden is benefiting off the fact that Donald Trump is not being approved of nationwide in terms of the way that he is handling the coronavirus. And as we look, this doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon, and Joe Biden is going to continue to harp on Donald Trump as we progress through this campaign season. Will the American people get tired of it? Probably not. They eat stuff like this up. But when you look at the polling data, there's clearly a shift in favor of the Democrats. Because when Donald Trump previously went back and forth with Biden in Florida, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, well, not necessarily those two states, but Florida, Arizona, North Carolina, and all of a sudden Biden is starting to pick up traction and starting to get larger than expected margins on a nationwide level and having a larger chance than he previously had on a forecast, things are going to start spelling out bad news for Donald Trump. I'm not saying that this race is somehow not recoverable for Donald Trump by all means. I mean, 2 months ago, I would have said that Bernie Sanders was on track to become the Democratic nominee, and now we're talking about general elections in April after, half the states haven't even voted yet. 2020 politics is insane. It's going to change. But as of right now, Biden looks like he is on his best foot right now to win the election. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.